I would say that the conversation is happening without you anyway. And so it behooves you to take part. And in a sense, take control of the conversation. And the return on that investment is simply owning the conversation. Because anytime that someone's talking about you and you aren't present, it really is it's very difficult to gain that ground back. So it's important to be there first and react quickly. So the ROI is essentially the time to reaction. So, the quicker you can respond, whether that's the response to being, I don't know, the answer to your question, or just, thank you for saying something. As long as you're there, I think that's an important message to be given. So there's a style on Twitter that is the conversational style, and it's about using that person's username in public and then responding. And it's, you should try to master that style. And there are certain sort of fine points to that. Using the system a certain way. So for example, using their username at the beginning of a message provides a certain type of attribution versus using the username elsewhere in a message. There's the public reply, and then there's the sort of targeted reply. And you should research these things. The one that I've recently been made aware of is to use the period, then the @ sign. And that will send that reply to not just that person and their followers, but also the rest of the followers. I'm not entirely sure what percentage is social versus business. But a good way to find out is to go to the trending topics. Twitter is very good about profiling certain topics that are relevant, and some of them are event-based, some of them are personality-based. Mostly they're relevant to a certain time of the week, time of the day, and so you can kind of determine what's going on from that. The other thing to look at is who's popular on Twitter, who has the most number of followers, who's getting the most conversation. There are these things called hashtags, also the concept of favorites within Twitter, so you can star a message. And then there are services that'll track how many people are being favorited. And that's a great way to see what's relevant, what's happening. So what I've been told is that 10% of the users represent 90% of the traffic. So you kind of want to figure out who those 10% are, because that will tell you, what the content really is about. Trending topics became local recently, and they're adding countries, a couple at a time. And so we'll see more countries coming up, and so every country will have its own trending topic list. And then beyond the country level, we'll see city level, town level, block level, person level relevance, based on your location if you choose to share it. So that's coming. It's already established in services like Foursquare, but we'll see it happening more and more with Twitter now that the geolocation is enabled. And their whole purpose is to provide relevance to people, based on where they are, because it was evident very quickly that the topics that are trending in the U.S. aren't really of worldwide interest. Sometimes they are when there's an election. Sometimes there are when there's an event, but not always. So they had to do this hyper-local search, and so that's the future. And I'm really looking forward to this. I think we will see Twitter specifically providing a voice to people who've never had a voice. People in rural locations that have desperate need, finally getting a chance to share their voice. And I look for that. And Hayes is a wonderful example, a tragic example, but also a hopeful example, where people's lives are being saved because of sending messages out via mobile. And that's what I see as the future is Twitter-like applications, if not Twitter itself, popping up in places that have never had the internet before. Because it's so easy. You can do it via text. You can do it on your mobile. Right. That's I think the power. That was the power we had to start with. It was a text messaging tool. And so now they say that Twitter is in Mexico, but we don't have a shortcode here associated with that service. So in a sense, we're not quite fully penetrated in this country. So we will see these shortcodes popping up and enabling text messaging internet. where there was none.
Right.
So. I don't know what their plans are to localize it in terms of the character count. I suspect the character count will stay the same, but I mean there are advantages and disadvantages to different languages. I found that there are certain words in Spanish that you cannot actually reproduce in English, and there are endings to certain words in Spanish that provide so much more context that it would take a lot more characters to get in English. So it's sort of a trade-off. Also, we may find that conventions change to fit the medium. So we may lose some of the connecting words that we see. The de, la, etc. We may see that shortening. I had this experience yesterday. I actually was using Google Translate to craft a Spanish tweet, and I was looking for the word. I was trying to use the word demonstration, and I realized I can shorten it to demo, and it still means something in Spanish.
Yeah.
So I'm actually fascinated by that, on the differences between different languages and how to fit things into 140 characters. That's been my entire study, is how do we cram meaning into this tiny space? It has to do with referencing usernames, creating links via hashtag, adding your own link with the full HTTP link. And there are tricks to every language. And I'm learning as we go. It's fascinating. Right. Endless.